Hi, this is Dr. Stephen with Outclick Magazine. Today we're excited to talk to David McClymont, who is the CEO of our own Palm Beach Symphony. David, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I am happy to have you today. I love personally going to the opera and the symphony and all of the live musical and theater shows, and we're so excited to be working with now the Palm Beach Symphony. You all are putting on amazing shows. So tell us a little bit. Let's pretend like somebody's never heard of the Palm Beach Symphony. Tell us about the symphony and what your role is.
Sure. So, we're honored to be here, and thank you for your patronage too, because we couldn't continue to sustain the notes of our mission without your support. Palm Beach Symphony just celebrated its 46th anniversary of performing world-class concerts here in Palm Beach County. For about the first 30 or 40 years, we were reserved to performing mostly in people's homes in very small venues. So it wasn't until about 6 years ago that we really started to embark on a journey that's taken us to the level we are now, where our three pillars of the mission are to engage, educate, and entertain. And that's something that we take very seriously. 6 years ago, we did not educate a single student. Fast forward to today, and we've educated 50,000. From a performance standpoint, we're thrilled to now have Jerry Schwartz as our music director. Last year, despite the challenges of COVID, and we got a little bit lucky in terms of the timing with when COVID happened, we had a record-breaking season. So we're riding on a bit of a high wave right now, which has afforded us to be in a more comfortable position given COVID, although we do need to get back to performing quite soon, and we want to get our musicians back to performing. But it's been an exciting journey for the past 6 years, and seeing the impact that we've been able to make throughout the community.
You all have really, really expanded, like you said, from just small groups to upcoming at the Kravis Center.
We have, and I mentioned that to you earlier. That was always a dream of ours, is that we were performing in these really small venues, and we would look at a performance of 300 people, and we would say that that was a sold-out performance. And I remember when I first started, we hosted a concert at the Flagler Museum, which is obviously a beautiful venue, a little bit acoustically challenged. We had, I think, 275 people, and everybody was celebrating, saying that we had finally sold out. So now it's exciting for us to be able to finally live that dream of wanting to perform all of our 5 Masterworks concerts at the Kravis Center. It's obviously one of the top performing centers in South Florida, and for our area, it's the creme de la creme. It's the place that you want to be. Not only that, too, but to be able to have the space required to put on these Masterworks concerts. When we were doing concerts at the Flagler and these other small venues, for us, we would have 20 or 30 musicians, and we were calling that a Masterworks concert. We all know that's not really a Masterworks concert. It's sort of a chamber ensemble. But, so now it's really exciting to be back in a beautiful hall that seats 2,195 people, to allow our maestro, Jerry Schwartz, to be able to do what he does best, which is to bring in some of the best guest artists in the country and put on phenomenal programming.
Now, have you always worked in the arts? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I haven't, and that's a question I'm often asked. I have a bit of a scattered background. Right out of college, I worked in investment banking. I worked for UBS down in Fort Lauderdale. From there, I went and I managed a private Jack Nicklaus country club in West Palm, where I spent 15 phenomenal years working for Bear Lakes. And I really didn't think I was going to leave the club business. I loved the hospitality business. But it was in 2009 that a good friend of mine, that was the chairman of the Loggerhead Marine Life Center, the Sea Turtle Hospital in Juneau, said, "We're looking for a new CEO, and we think you'd be a great candidate. Would you be interested in joining us?" So that was really what got me into the nonprofit sector. I spent 2.5 years there with a great board, great staff. We doubled the size of the organization. We went to the county and acquired 1.5 acres of land to then embark on a $14 million capital campaign that they're really concluding right now, with almost being finished with the building. So just as we were hitting trajectory there and doing some exciting things, I received a phone call from the Symphony saying, "We've seen from a business standpoint what you've been able to do with Loggerhead in terms of expanding their brand, expanding their mission. Would you be interested in coming and talking to us about taking over as CEO for the Symphony?" And that was 6 years ago, and it's been a really exciting journey. And I would say somewhat symbiotic too, because it's been extremely rewarding for me from a business standpoint to see the mission that we've expanded, and then more importantly, to see the impact that we're making in the community. It's pretty impressive.
And Jared is your music director and the creative director behind it. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. We've got a part, we're going to show a part of the video. I'm going to have Arthur, who's my helper. He's going to show some part of the video to give people a little flavor of what a fantastic performance you all put on. We're going to get that pulled into the video.
Our audience originally was a very small group of supporters on Palm Beach Island who would have concerts where maybe 100 people were in attendance.
We played good music, but it could only almost be called a chamber orchestra.
A gentleman by the name of Bruce Bent was one of the original people, starting with the Palm Beach Symphony, and he used to do quartets at his home.
We were small at that time.
This is now full-fledged Philharmonic Orchestra.
It competes with any other orchestra in the United States.
The community needs classical music because it enhances and enriches lives of everybody involved with it.
Music is a universal language. Wherever you go, music speaks to people.
It enriches every aspect of life and your brain.
I think it's a great tool for young people to just learn a lot about themselves and a lot about what music was in the past and what's going to be in the future.
Everybody participates in music. You go out on the street and you see somebody driving by and the window's up and you hear the music, boom, 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 boom.
It's the only thing that we can really experience collectively, such a heightened sense of emotion at one time.
Classical music holds the very basis for every music we experience today.
If you don't have classical music or you don't have the arts in general, then creativity doesn't exist. And every society needs creativity.
The addition of Gerard Schwartz as our maestro has been the most exciting addition to the symphony that I can recall.
He's a great musician, he's a great person, he's a good people person.
He gets us to listen and to play together in a way that has not been demanded of us before.
Maestro Schwartz has really proved is when you play really well and you believe in what we do, there will always be an audience for that.
Now, I've heard Beethoven's Ninth played. I heard it played by Toscanini, believe it or not. The Ninth Symphony I heard this year by our Palm Beach Symphony was as good as any Ninth Symphony I've ever heard.
It was very memorable. I loved that performance.
And to perform it under such a great maestro as Gerard Schwartz was just an amazing experience, as well as performing in the Kravis Center.
My wife and I looked at each other after or during that concert and said, you know, the symphony's finally arrived. It's really taken that extra step.
It took my breath away. I was so pleased and so proud.
I mean, it's just been a dream. And for me, of course, beginning the whole dream with an all Beethoven program, including the Ninth Symphony and the Fourth Piano Concerto with the Rossi Gutierrez, is something that you think about all your life. What would be the most extraordinary way to begin your tenure as a music director? To do that program for a large and appreciative audience with those great musicians, soloists and chorus. That's a very special moment for me and one that I can remember forever.
That's amazing. I heard Beethoven's Ninth Symphony twice last year. I was lucky enough to get to hear it twice. It would have been his 250th birthday, I believe.
That's correct.
Yes. And everyone knows the tune when they've heard it. So, and you all did it as well?
We did it. It was an exciting opportunity for us too, because we firmly believe in collaborations. Obviously, within the nonprofit sector, it's critical that you collaborate. And we had a great opportunity to collaborate with Palm Beach Atlantic University and their choir, as well as a couple of other choirs here in the area. So it was an exciting opportunity.
Classical music is so important for everyone. Why is it important, do you think, for our culture and for everyone to experience classical music?
That's a great question. I think that we could talk forever about all the reasons why it's important. From a cultural standpoint, there's so many different layers to it, and there's so many different weaves to the fabric as to why it's important. I mean, think about it from a historical standpoint. Think about all the different stories behind classical music and how it's carried on for generations and generations. For us, it's important because, as I may have mentioned early on, educational outreach for us is critical. And we have stories of students right here in Palm Beach County that were in 9th, 10th, 11th grade that were renting instruments and were aspiring to do something beyond school in music. And I have an example of Valentina Palucci. Valentina Palucci was a student that was in 10th grade. She was renting a violin, and all she wanted to do was aspire to go to a college. She auditions. She goes through our Be Instrumental program, where we donate instruments to deserving students that want to go on to college and perform professionally. And she auditioned. She won and was the recipient. We gave her a very expensive violin, and she went on an audition for 6 universities and conservatories in the U.S. And take a wild guess how many she got into. All 6. So
Wow,
Juilliard, Peabody, you name it, she got into those. So if you think about it from an educational standpoint, what we've been able to achieve with our impact in the community, we're trying to give people opportunities that maybe they wouldn't have without the support that we provide here in the community.
And you all have an amazing program where you donate instruments to high school seniors. Is that right?
That's exactly right. That's what I was just speaking of.
Yes.
That's exactly right. So we donate close to 50 instruments per year to students that otherwise wouldn't have them. And it's really interesting. That started 5 years ago. We sent out a card to our local community, and on the front of the card, it said, "Be instrumental." And on the back of the card, there was a 3rd grader that was playing violin, and it said, "By any chance, if you have instruments that are laying around the house that you're not using anymore and that are collecting dust, will you please consider giving those to the Palm Beach Symphony?" Well, it started with this woman in North Palm Beach that donated her cello. And it just so happened that the conservatory school at North Palm needed a cello for a student. And that's what spearheaded it 5 years ago. Now we're donating 50 instruments per year.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I played saxophone in high school, and I was terrible. I was not any good. Piano and organ was my main suit, but I always am envious when I go and hear the instrumentalist play, because I wish I had been better at it and I could have joined something like the symphony, because I was not very good at playing the saxophone. But I wish I'd played the trumpet or something to have been part of it. But that's an amazing program that provides instrumentation for students. And the arts and culture are so important. It inspires people, the way it shapes people, and the way it retells our story. I say, if the symphonies and the operas and those don't keep playing the music, it will die. It's what keeps retelling the history. It's part of the history telling of our culture, what keeps our culture alive, and part of what educates people and inspires people. And so when COVID hit, I felt like I just kind of went deaf. And when I lost all of that, I lost all that inspiration, and I lost all of that. And there is nothing like, we can watch it on a video, but there is nothing like going and hearing it and experiencing it live and in person, and seeing the players and just being part of that symbiotic relationship of seeing the live concerts. And there's just nothing like seeing it in person. And you have a Nurturing Notes program for seniors. I see that as well. If you want to maybe give us a little snapshot about that.
Sure. So as our organization has expanded, we've continued to receive more support from foundations. And one of the foundations accepted our request to expand with Nurturing Notes. So Nurturing Notes is a very exciting program where we provide music therapy to seniors living in assisted living and memory care communities, or at-risk children, veterans, Holocaust survivors with PSD. It's been really exciting. We've gone into the Children's Hospital and Quantum House, and we're working with those students. We even had an opportunity with one of our supporters, Paul DeYoung, who's an all-star shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals, last year came and signed some baseballs as we performed for those students. So that's been very gratifying too. And another extension in terms of the 3 pillars of our mission, here we were doing really good work educating, but educating mostly students. And we looked at ourselves and said, okay, this is good, but how can we continue to strive to do better, more of an impact? So Olga Vasquez, who's our Director of Education, has done a phenomenal job with expanding all of the educational outreach, which now includes that Nurturing Notes program.
It's the symphony provides not just concerts, but so much of the outreach and the education. I think that's phenomenal that you all are continuing to do that. You've been obviously impacted by the COVID and all of that. If you want to talk about kind of how you've shifted and what kind of programs online or how you're offering things and looking for the future with the symphony, and how difficult the challenge has been for all of our arts and entertainment partners.
You're absolutely right. So unfortunately, well, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately, we were able to host our gala in February. And it was a record-breaking gala where we raised just under $1 million, which was quite impressive because 5 years ago we raised $0. But unfortunately, we had to cancel 2 concerts that were at the Krause. The good news is that because of the relationships that we've developed with our patrons and donors, I'm happy to say that about 70% of the ticket holders decided to donate the value of their tickets back to the symphony. We're sitting here trying to continue to monitor all of the public safety recommendations, guidelines, and we're working with the Kravis Center to best understand when we might be able to open back up. But we pivoted immediately. We decided that we were going to take a dozen musicians who were without work, and we commissioned them to create 48 instructional videos that we would offer to students when the schools were closed. And we have a really incredibly talented staff. So we've been very fortunate due to the success that we've had previously. Up until now, we have not had to furlough or lay off any staff members. And we're very pleased to say that hopefully we'll be able to continue that as well.
Congratulations. That's no small feat in this time. And I'm very proud of, you should be very proud of that. It's been a challenge for everyone. I did hear, just side note, that Barry Manilow gave you all a shout out on Facebook. Is that true? Did I hear that correctly?
You did hear that correctly. So one of the things that we did here, we were forced, I think it was March 12th or March 13th when COVID really started to make its presence. And we said, okay, if we're not going to be able to perform for the last two concerts and it looks like we're going to have to close out our season, how do we pivot immediately? And how do we do something, again, that's impactful? But then also going back to what I said earlier about collaborations, I'm a firm believer in collaborations. So I went to Andrew Cato at the Maltz, I went to Colleen Smith at the ballet and David Walker at the opera, and I said, I have this idea, I have an aha. Help me understand if you think that it's a good idea. And I said, my idea is, how do we figure out a way to do a collaborative video, but to do it where it's truly impactful and you're using a song that makes sense? So we came up with the idea of, why don't we use Barry Manilow's one voice? Everyone said, great idea.
Okay.
There's only one challenge. We don't have permission to use it. So on a whim, I just reached out to him personally and ended up speaking with his manager. We pitched the idea to him and said, listen, this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to continue to make an impact on our community. We want to collaborate and we'd love to have your support. And not only did he support it and said, you have full authority to use the song, but he also shared it among his Facebook followers, which I think he has 4 or 5 million Facebook followers.
Wow.
It has close to 11 or 12,000 views now on YouTube. And it was phenomenal because it really happened at a time where I think the community, as you just said earlier, we sort of went dark and silent, and people were yearning for these arts organizations to continue to do what we do best, and that's to engage, educate, and entertain.
That's phenomenal. Congratulations on that project. And
thank you.
When so many people are struggling with things to do and at home, and I continually tell people, when you see this kind of content, get a Chromecast or an Apple TV and put it on the big screen and watch it on the big screen and make a night of it and really enjoy the presentations, because as we're sitting at home and kind of wondering what to do, these make for great content to watch on your big screen TV at home, and they're taped and done very well. So put it on the big screen and have a good time with it.
Great advice.
Yeah. Is there anything maybe you wanted to cover that I didn't ask about that we didn't cover?
The only thing I would mention is just to stay tuned in terms of our upcoming season. We're very passionate and very enthusiastically looking at when we think it makes sense, both from an economic standpoint, be economically viable and fiscally responsible, but then also more importantly to be safe with both our patrons and our musicians to kick off our season. So stay tuned for that. We're working very hard with all the local authorities. We're working hard with the Kravis and some of the associations throughout the country to better understand when that might be.
Okay. I think Arthur has the Barry Manilow. We're going to see if we can pull that in. That sounds like a lot of fun. He was down here in South Florida a couple years ago for a concert.
Where? In Broward?
I think he was down at the Art Center.
Okay.
I think he was down at the Art Center. So, is this it? Oh, there it is. I see Barry Manilow. Very good. Look at you. Look at you. How impressive. How impressive. So my last question I always ask people is, what words of encouragement do you have for people during such a challenging time?
That's a great question. I love that question. I think what I would say is that this has affected all of us, right? And anybody that's watching this, you're not alone. I have small children that are trying to navigate the school system online, and there are people who believe in you and want you to succeed. So despite all of it, try to stay positive and realize that people believe in you and are here to help you and support you. And obviously, when it comes to the symphony, we cannot wait to get back on stage. engage, educate, and entertain the public.
That's great. I want to play the last part of the video, the promo video. It's so well done and really showcases what you will do. I'm going to ask Arthur to pull up that last part of the video, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we can show viewers.
I feel like I'm got a little piece of the symphony. I've made a contribution to it, and so I feel like I'm part of it. If they don't play well, I don't feel well. It was just great that night.
Every community needs art education. And every community needs to educate the future supporters of the arts.
I'm always focused on children and getting children exposed, because I think once you expose the children, then the parents also become exposed, and it opens up a lot of opportunities for them.
Our first year, I think we collected 1 or 2 instruments to donate to the school system, and that was a really exciting moment to have a couple of instruments. Hundreds of instruments later, I think this program has grown into something that none of us really could have foreseen.
And then setting up for Holly Jolly. Holly Jolly is my favorite thing. Seeing a room that's just a blank canvas and then getting it ready and then seeing it the day of the event is quite something.
David McClymont's done a fantastic job to take it from just simply providing a service to providing the foundation for all cultural events and foundation for the expectation to set the bar for all cultural events in Palm Beach County.
As the CEO of the Symphony has put together an all-star group of staff focused on making really important changes to grow this organization. And when you think about the growth that the Symphony has had over the last, call it 7 years, it's pretty profound, the changes that we have.
We are now on par with any symphony in any major metropolis in the United States.
Every year it gets better and better. We have sold out audiences.
We've been able to bring wonderful soloists, wonderful conductors. It grew to be a great orchestra all around. It's been a constant transformation, and I'm happy to be a part of such a great orchestra now.
In 5 years, I hope to see Palm Beach Symphony playing 3 times as many concerts or more if we can. The more we can play, the better.
Carnegie Hall. I see this Palm Beach Symphony in Carnegie Hall in 5 years.
I know that in order for our organization to get to the place that we know we can be, it's going to take help from all the patrons that we've seen over these last several years.
Producing good music is not inexpensive. And the one thing that we are hidebound to is producing good music.
We want high-level performances. We want to service our community. We want to do some expansion, and we're all working together to do that, to bring the greatest music, the greatest soloists to Palm Beach, and to really make a mark as we have been doing in the educational realm. And we're so grateful to everyone that has come and helped support this great institution. It's a joyous time and a joyous occasion. And I personally want to thank every patron for being part of the Palm Beach Symphony family.
That's amazing. Well, you have a lot to be proud of and a lot of really great accomplishments and a lot of great outreach. We're excited to be working with you and excited for the upcoming season and concerts and what you have planned.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And we're excited to be partnering with you too. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Things will make a turn and things will come around at some point, and we will be watching online as much as we can. And we're going to take that out of the stream. There we go. And we'll be watching as much as we can online. And so we're excited for what's to come for the symphony.
Terrific. Thank you.
All right. Arthur is going to put up your links to your website, your social media, so they can follow you, palmbeachsymphony.org, facebook.com, and all of your other social media.
Excellent.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we are a huge fan of the arts and the symphony music. So if you'd like to know more about OutClick, you can text, we will pull that up too, OCQ to 22828 to stay updated on us. And again, thank you for joining us, and everyone have a safe afternoon.